and welcome to New Thought Center of Hawaii. Our first um, presentation for our Sunday service is going to be reading by Palmer's wife, Tony. I knew that. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. We have a lovely reading today from the Science of Mind magazine. It's called A Far Higher Realm. And it says, to journey, you must first go out. You're asking out where? Okay, we're gonna talk about that. The science of astrophysics, as it has now developed, would have been impossible for the aid it has derived from the study of light, from its analysis by the spectroscope, and all that followed from that. Am I wrong in saying that even to science, light still remains somewhat mysterious? To the layperson, its properties, as science reveals them, are amazing. Miracles they certainly are not. Like all great works of nature, light belongs to a far higher realm than the miraculous. Is there any relation between the physical light, which science analyzes, and the intellectual light, which is the light of the mind, by which science studies it? Any relation, any affinity between the light that travels 160,000 miles a second and the light that lighteth everyone born into the world? Is there not a possibility that the two lights are the same but shining in different media? Yes, long after Ernest Holmes wondered this, light remains mysterious. The James Webb Space Telescope just started sending back pictures of galaxies farther away than any human eye has seen. Light escaping these swirls and spirals traveled billions of years to be noticed by the Webb or by you and me directly, sitting out in some starlit meadow. We peer into the distant past and find ourselves engulfed in it, I would say by it. Ernest indicates that we are not only the recipients of light, but embody the cosmic light itself. If we were not of it, we could not comprehend it. There is one reality made up of objects near and far, and one mind comprised of what we know, along with every other idea any sentient being has entertained or possibly could. Outer space is vast, yet inner space is infinite. The affirmation for today, I'll say it and then we can repeat it together. Today, cool shadows of peace fall across my pathway. Okay, if you'd repeat after me. Today, cool shadows of peace fall across my pathway. Beautiful, beautiful reading. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. Now let's have a moment of silence. We can each meditate in our own way, and once we are finished, I will ring the little bell for us to then come back to our service. And my name is Marjorie, by the way. I've got that. I remembered that. I couldn't remember Tony. All right, let's do that we can meditate on our knowing. And to bring us back into the service, we're being blessed by getting a song from Sakshi this morning.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. So Phil told me a little bit about his talk this morning, and it's about what happens after death before your next incarnation. And this song came to mind. At the banks of a beautiful river, will you meet I there when my journey is near? At the banks of the beautiful river, will you meet I there? Will you meet I there? Right over there, right over there, right over there, right over there. At the banks of the beautiful river, will you meet I there when my journey is near? At the banks of the beautiful river, will you meet I there? Will you meet I there? Right over there, right over there, right over there, right over there. Right over there, right over there, right over there, right over there. At the banks of the beautiful river, will you meet I there when my journey is near? At the banks of the beautiful river, will you meet I there? Will you meet I there? Right over there, 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 right over there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we do our applause with the sign for applause without actually breaking any noise. If anyone wonders what that was, I would like to welcome everyone to New Thought Center of Hawaii. We are very excited because we spent last Sunday celebrating. We have been a church since 1971, which was 50 years, but it was actually 50 years a year ago, and we were in the middle of the pandemic. So it was really exciting last Sunday because we had our service of celebration, and we added one more year. So there was a little extra zazz to it. We all came to celebrate that. It just seemed more special because we had not been able to be here for so long. We had struggled with how to handle the pandemic. The pandemic seemed to handle us more than we handled it. But now that we're on the other side, it has really been fantastic to be able to do our celebration in the way that we have. We'd like to uh, welcome any new guests that we have. Is anybody here for the first time that would like to be recognized? We do have some that have been here and are coming back, so that is also a blessing. Sakshi, if you could give us another song.
So right now in all over the world, people are celebrating the Navratri, which is the 9 days of the goddess, I believe, in the Hindu tradition. So I'm going to chant this song called Mother of My Soul. Mother of my soul, soul to set me free. You have given me all that I need to help me see. Mother of love, lover of my soul, you have given me all that I need to make me whole. Mother of my soul, soul to set me free. You have given me all that I need to help me see. Mother of love, lover of my soul, you have given me all that I need to make me whole. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai 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 Ma. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai Jai Ma. Jagadambe, Jaya Jagadambe, Jai 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 Ma. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai Jai Ma. Hey Ma Durgaya, Hey Ma Durgaya. Amritananda Maya, Om Namah Shivaya. Kali Durgaya, Kali Jai Jai Maha. Amritananda Maya, Om Namah Shivaya. Hey Ma Durgaya, Hey Ma Durgaya. Amritananda Maya, Om Namah Shivaya. Kali Durgaya, Kali Jai Jai Maha. Amritananda Maya, Om Namah Shivaya. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai 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 Ma. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai Jai Ma. Jagadambe, Jaya Jagadambe, Jai 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 Ma. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai Jai Ma. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai 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 Ma. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai Jai Ma. Jagadambe, Jaya Jagadambe, Jai 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 Ma. Jaya Jagadambe, Jai Jai Ma. Mother of my soul, soul to set me free. You have given me all that I need to help me see. Mother of love, lover of my soul, you have given me all that I need to make me whole. You have given me all that I need to make me whole. You have given me all that I need to make me whole.
Thank you so much. And now at this time, we have a portion of our service letting anyone come up to share a miracle and or an ordinary. And we have someone who would like to do that. So Liza, let us hear.
That I'm not speaking yet. Okay, the miracle that I have to share is our Lorraine went to Florida to be with her mama, her dad, her mother, her brother, and Sister Barry. And then Irma came. Scared I was. Oh my God. So she was in a bubble. They're all safe. They are fine. So that's the miracle.
Yes, we do want to hold the people in Florida in our thoughts and prayers. And we have time for more miracles and more ordinaries.
Well, last week was officially our produce giveaway Sunday. But what happened this week at where Rob and I live, overshadowing our house is this giant avocado tree. It must be over 100 years old. We named it Kamehameha. And I don't know if it was wind or rain or just the weight of the fruit, but one morning we went out and there was just like avocados everywhere. And so we brought some of them to share this morning because Kamehameha was on his own time. You know, he didn't do it for last week, but he made the gift for this week. So there's some there on that table, and Patty added some tangerines, and there's more on your way out. But we don't have enough friends to give away all that tree provided. So Terry has agreed. She has a way to donate them to people that might not have enough to eat otherwise. So whatever, but don't hold back because we have several more boxes in the car. So whatever you can use, take it with you today with our blessings and gratitude and that of our tree Kamehameha.
Thank you, Pasha. Anyone else like to share? At this time, I am very happy to introduce our speaker. This is the third time that Phil Centers has presented on our Sunday mornings. I really enjoyed the first two presentations that he gave, and those have been recorded and are on YouTube. So he's presenting about Steiner, and the first two were also. So it would if you enjoy which you're going to enjoy this session this morning, and then I think you would probably enjoy going back and seeing the first two presentations on Steiner. It will give you a more complete picture of him. Phil Centers is currently a writer, effective communication and relationship coach, and community development consultant. He worked for over 30 years as a teacher and administrator at several Waldorf traditional and international schools, including the local Kona Pacific Public Charter School, which implements many principles of the Waldorf educational philosophy. He has been a student of Rudolf Steiner and his cosmology since 1980. Phil is also a longtime student of multiple other spiritual perspectives, including New Thought and A Course in Miracles. Today's presentation is his third of Rudolf Steiner for the New Thought Center. Please help me welcome Mr. Steiner, Mr. Centers.
So I'm going to move this mic over. I'm actually just okay. Can people hear me? So it's a real joy to be here again, here at New Thought Center, sharing about one of my teachers, Rudolf Steiner. This picture has joined us the two previous times, and here he is, the great friend of humanity. As Margie mentioned, 2 years ago, I spoke about the life of Rudolf Steiner and his place in our time. That's available on through the New Thought website from August 23rd, 2020, if you're interested in reviewing that. And last year, the talk was on the key to unlocking Rudolf Steiner's cosmology. And that is available on the website on September 5th, 2021. Today, we're going to be talking about and exploring some of the fruits of Rudolf Steiner's research. So we're going to start with the realm of education, because all of us begin our journeys in our current lifetimes as children, and at some point we all become educated. So that's something very close to all of us, that's very accessible to our experience. And when you look at traditional schools take a very pragmatic approach. They say, okay, a child comes into the world, they're very helpless in a way, very vulnerable, and they know very, very little. They know practically nothing when they come in, as far as the things that they need to know to survive in this world. And this is a very complex world that they are coming into this day and time. So we obviously have to educate them. And so the way that it is formulated, the thought process is that we develop a curriculum that reflects the values of our community. We train and hire competent educators to deliver that curriculum, and also to support the delivery of that curriculum with administrators and special ed specialists and the like. We assess the children on a regular basis to make sure that they're mastering, or at least able to indicate on a test that they have understood at least 60% of the curriculum that we are presenting to them. If they do, we move them forward. And then when they have gotten to the end of the curriculum meaning a course that one goes through, then we graduate them from that curriculum, hope that they have the skills necessary to function in the world, and ideally that they would be able to live a meaningful and a fulfilling life. And that is education in the sense of traditionally all around the world. So what is different about Waldorf education? Waldorf education looks at the process of the child moving through beginning life and moving through life in a very different way. So its premises are quite different, and the way that it brings its method of education accordingly is quite different. And this goes back to what Steiner did, and we talked about this 2 years ago with his development of what's known as spiritual science. really, Steiner was a seer and a scientist at the same time. So the limits to knowledge for Rudolf Steiner were not the same limits to knowledge that the rest of us have, or any of us that aren't seers have. So you could say that, in a sense, this world that we, and the reading this morning touched on this with the idea of the visible light spectrum. This world, you can imagine, it's just an imagination that somehow the cosmos was picked up and shaken, and that became gravity, that became the force of gravity, and it fell, the parts of the world fell into this reality that we experience right now. Part of the light spectrum fell, part of the electromagnetic spectrum fell, and became that little sliver of what we call visible light. And that is our experience of light. Out of the whole range from infrared to ultraviolet, we have this little tiny spectrum of light that we think is the world. Out of sound, we have a small segment of sound that we think is what sound is. And so all of the parts of the world that we can perceive, we very rationally create systems to deal with that and think it's the most natural thing in the world. And so, but if we can go beyond those limits and really perceive what the Course in Miracles would call the real world, so really from the border of this world of illusions, it's a world of illusions because it's such a tiny a sliver of what is all there is to experience. If we can expand that out to the gate of heaven, because beyond the gate of heaven, going into the realm of the pure spiritual realm, Steiner said, yeah, you can go there. Jesus in the Course in Miracles said the same thing, but there's no words for it. It's only experience. So really, Steiner's cosmology starts at the edge of the world that we think is as far as you can go, and goes all the way to the true edge of the world. And that is the cosmology of what is known as spiritual science. And Sakshi and I were talking before the talk about the other word that captures spiritual science, which again, we talked about 2 years ago, which is anthroposophy, which is the Greek word anthropos, the human being looking upward to the divine being of Sophia, the divine wisdom and the divine feminine. So anthroposophy, spiritual science, is really the human being looking beyond the thresholds that we've assumed are there, the appearance of things, the physical world, to the real world, which includes the etheric, the world of life forces, the chi, the starry world, which is called the astral world, and then up to the spiritual world. So when you expand, and when we expand our vision to that dimension, then we see that the journey of the individual, which Steiner calls the spiritual biography, we are able to follow that journey all the way from the death through the spiritual world, which we'll be talking about at the end of this talk, and then through the process of conception and pregnancy and birth, through the whole of the life, and then again to the moment of death. So we're going to start this journey at the point of birth. We could, in a way, say that the first part of human development in a person's incarnation is that process of conception, pregnancy, and the birth process. But in a sense, that is beyond the scope of this talk, because really the individuality that comes in is totally it's really dependent on the mother, that the way that she conceives, the mother and the father conceive that child, and the relationship they have with that individuality, and how they create the pregnancy and how they create that birth experience. That is something that it is part of human development, but it's really beyond the scope of Waldorf education, although in a sense you could include it as the first phase of Waldorf education. But we're going to start with the birth. And at birth, Steiner says, interestingly enough, the physical body is not complete. The process that's happened for the 40 weeks from conception till the birth of the physical body has created this amazing miracle of the physical body, but it isn't complete for a very important purpose. And that is that if it were complete at birth, then it would be, in a sense, a carbon copy of the maternal ancestor stream and the paternal ancestor stream. And it wouldn't allow the freedom that the individual needs as part of their spiritual biography to go through the life in incarnation that's just beginning and really accomplish what they need to accomplish in this lifetime. So for that reason, the physical body is incomplete, and the work of the first 7 years in Waldorf education is the completing of the physical body. So because that body isn't complete, the individuality cannot begin incarnating into the body yet. And Steiner says that the individuality hovers around the physical body in the first 7 years and acts as an inner sculptor. So it's a kind of a spiritual sculptor that is sculpting what it sees in its environment into the organs of the physical body. And that is a very sacred process. So there are, you could say, 4 things that the individuality is observing in the environment that it sculpts into the internal organs over the course of the first 7 years. The first thing that it looks for and that it sculpts in are the substances that are in the environment. And those substances include everything physical. So we could start with, say, wood. In a Waldorf kindergarten, in an anthroposophical home, you'll have solid wood with natural finishes on the wood. You won't have, you don't want to have veneers that have, glued on substance with formaldehyde in them. You want solid wood with natural substances instead of, for instance, plastic. Waldorf kindergarten will avoid plastic that's made out of motor oil. We don't want the child imitating motor oil and incorporating that into the internal organs. We want natural substances. So the natural fibers, silk, linen, cotton, wool. If you have carpets, you'll have wool carpets, and silk fibers hanging in the room to soften the corners. You'll have natural beeswax for crayons and possibly for modeling instead of paraffin crayons, which again are made out of motor oil. And the most profound substance which we take into our bodies, the food substances, will be organic or ideally biodynamic substances, because those are obviously incorporated into the organs as well. So that's the first realm that gets imitated by the sculptor of the individuality into the internal organs. The second realm that it imitates is the realm of movements. So all of the movements in the environment of a young child, we want to be meaningful. Margie was just sweeping earlier before we started. So sweeping is a kind of archetypal movement. Stirring is an archetypal movement. Folding is an archetypal movement. So anything that has meaning behind it. Now, you may need to use a vacuum for your room if you have a kindergarten classroom, but you will never do that in the presence of a child. You would always do that when the child isn't present. In the presence of the child, you would sweep if you need to sweep. Also, I should mention, going back to the substances, to the actual physical things in the environment. Think about electronic devices. You'll never have electronic devices in a Waldorf kindergarten and in an anthroposophical home. I mean, that would be the most hideous thing to try to incorporate into the internal organs is electronic devices. So the second realm being these meaningful movements. The third realm is meaningful activities. So a Waldorf kindergarten is imbued with meaning. The rhythm of the day is balanced. So you'll have activity, you'll have free play, you'll have structured play, you'll have stories that are told and then made into puppet plays and then acted out. You'll have time going out and hiking in nature and then time resting. So everything is balanced and meaningfully thought through. And the rhythm of the week is very meaningful. The Waldorf Kindergarten will honor, going back to last year's talk on Steiner, one of the three axes of understanding Steiner's cosmology is this horizontal axis of cosmic evolution or cosmic time. And that is kind of the 7 planetary incarnations of the Earth. We're on the 4th one right now. So the 7 planets, and each of the 7 days of the week have a grain. Sunday is wheat, Monday is rice, Tuesday is oats, etc. So the Waldorf Kindergarten, the children may prepare their snack for the day, their food for the day, based on this meaningful rhythm of the 7 days. The seasons, the rhythm of the season will be incorporated into a Waldorf Kindergarten. And so everything is imbued with meaning, and the festivals will be celebrating the seasonal changes. And then the 4th thing that Steiner says that goes right into a child's body is very kind of strange, which is that Steiner says that even a person's thoughts in the presence of a child will be picked up on by that child. And so and that's very difficult. We don't know what another person's thoughts are, but we just need to have kind of a discernment about we don't want to expose the children to too much activity, too much drawing of them out. We want to really make sure that this time of the first 7 years is protected. And even that the thoughts that are in their environment are to the degree that we can are kind of holy and sacred. So you may remember from last year the second of the axes of the key to understanding Steiner's cosmology is the vertical axis is the hierarchies. So the levels of beings, levels of consciousness above the human realm, 9 levels: the angels, archangels, archai, the spirits of form, movement, and wisdom, and then the highest hierarchy, the spirits of intent, harmony, and love. And these have been known about for eons. But the hierarchies in these 4 realms of the Waldorf Kindergarten, you can see a reflection. The spirits of form relate to those substances. The spirits of movement relate to the movements in a child's environment. The spirits of wisdom, the 6th hierarchy, relate to the wisdom and the meaningfulness of the activities in the Waldorf Kindergarten. And finally, the spirits of intent, the thrones, as they're known, relate to that invisible realm of people's thoughts and intents, and just not exposing the children to too much. Now, Steiner said that this work of sculpting the inner organs is complete around the age of 7 and with the completion of the brain. Neurological research 40 years after Steiner, quite independently of Steiner, came to the discovery that the 2 hemispheres of the brain, the right and left brain, begin coordinating at around 6 2/3 years of the child's life. So this is a kind of a confirmation of what Steiner said. And Steiner said that the wisdom of the body will signify that inner work is done through the falling out of the baby teeth and the coming in of the adult teeth. So once the baby teeth start falling out, that's a sign that this phase of human development is complete, and that the child now is ready, and the individuality that is coming into the child that incarnates from lifetime to lifetime. And this individuality is really a unique droplet of the Godhead. It is something that is unique in all the cosmos. And so this individuality is ready with the body to turn its attention outward to the physical world, to the world that we see around us, but not yet ready to experience this world directly. Steiner said that that would be like someone looking directly at the sun. So we need the child to look at the world, but through an adult who becomes an authority figure for the child and represents knowledge, is kind of a representative to knowledge for that child. So this begins the second 7 years, and Waldorf really began with that in 100 and well, by now it's 103 years ago, in 1919. Waldorf Education began. The owner and director of the Waldorf cigarette factory in Stuttgart, Germany, asked Steiner, was a student of Steiner, and asked Steiner if he would help start a school, and really wanted to have a different lens. In a sense, you could say that falling to the earth through gravity and of kind of the things that the perceptible world that we experience since that fall, is a kind of a lens. It's the lens of rationality. And so when you have that lens in place, it makes perfect sense. And Emil Molt, the director of and owner of the Waldorf cigarette factory, really wanted to take that lens out and put a different lens in that really expanded out to the cosmos that Steiner had revealed. And Steiner was very joyful that someone asked him to do that. Steiner's research was always based on someone asking the question. And so he did his research on human development and came and was ready then to begin the school. And on the eve of the Waldorf, the first teacher training, he had gathered individuals from around the world and asked them if they wanted to be part of this endeavor. And then on the eve of that teacher training, the very first Waldorf teacher training, which was really a celebration, he gave an address, and he did say that this a Waldorf movement, and Waldorf is really a misnomer. Waldorf was the name of the very first school, and Steiner really wanted every school to be named after something of the spirit of the school, but it's kind of stuck, and it became called Waldorf Education or Steiner Education. But really, it is the true name of this form of education is human development education based on a spiritual scientific understanding of human development. That's a lot to say. Education based on a spiritual scientific understanding of human development. And so we call it Waldorf education. And Steiner said in this address on the eve of the first teacher training that this is really a cosmic festive moment, that the whole cosmos is celebrating that a new form of education based on reality is now coming into human evolution and to the world, that every child now has the opportunity of being educated in this way. And really at the beginning, that first school only had that second 7 year, or really in a sense, it's an 8 year period of time. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But that was Waldorf education. Kindergarten was really, Steiner said that should be done in the home. That's where this kind of these forms and these activities and this meaningfulness should be done. But then for practical reasons, it became we needed to have a children's garden, a kindergarten, and now and for a long time, Waldorf kindergartens. There's more Waldorf kindergartens than any other form of Waldorf education in the world, and then the Waldorf High School was added afterward as well. So this second 7 years began, and so now the child has indicated that it's ready for that. The teeth have started changing, and so now the birth of another body you could say we have these processes, these interweaving processes of conception, birth, and completion. The conception of the physical body happened at conception. The birth of the physical body happened at physical birth. And the completion of the physical body was at the change of teeth. And at the change of teeth, the birth of the etheric body, which is also known in Anthroposophy as the body of formative forces, it's known in the Eastern world as the chi, the life forces. That body is born now, and for the next 7 years, it will go through a process of being completed. And so that is what the pedagogical task of the second 7 years is all about. That's what Waldorf education is about. And by knowing the journey of the individual spiritual biography, we can create an educational experience that meets the need of that individuality and of the developing, the completion of the etheric body. So something very strange is that Steiner said that this individual who will represent knowledge to the children, that it does so just as the forms and the activities and movements were imitated in the first 7 years. In the second 7 years, Steiner said the key to understanding, the key to learning is authority. The teachers and the parents are real authorities for the child to in a sense imitate that authority. And Steiner makes a very interesting statement. He says that the future of humanity depends on individual adults coming forward who can be true authority figures for children in the middle 7-year period, in the second 7-year period. That is a profound statement, that the destiny of humanity really depends on that happening. So, what is that? What does that really mean? Another indication that Steiner gave through his research is that every individual child, starting at the age of 7, really recapitulates in its own individual consciousness the evolution of consciousness of humanity. Now, an example of the evolution of consciousness of humanity is perspective drawing in art, where humanity was able to finally take 3 dimensions and put it onto a 2-dimensional plane. That happened in the Renaissance, and that is a very direct experience of the evolution of consciousness. There are multiple, there are hundreds of these nodal points where we can track the evolution of consciousness. Consciousness is expanding tremendously in our day and time. Knowledge is expanding at an unbelievable rate. So you could say that consciousness, the evolution of consciousness, is also expanding like that. It started off very slow and then is speeding up. And Jesus talked about that. He called that the celestial speed up in the Course in Miracles. So in first grade, the reflection of that is the reflection in the Waldorf curriculum is that the child is really in their own individual consciousness is really reflecting prehistoric consciousness of humanity, and the Waldorf curriculum in the first grade it reflects that in the sense that fairy tales that is kind of the vessel or the vehicle for the curriculum to be delivered. The language arts curriculum, at least, is through fairy tales. And in the second year of the curriculum, it's fables and stories of remarkable human beings, and so forth. It goes. The evolution of consciousness of humanity is reflected in the curriculum. In the fourth grade, you could say that it's a reflection of Atlantis. It's come forth all the way to Atlantis, and Norse mythology, which is a reflection of that time, Asgard and Midgard. Those are kind of symbolic pictures of Atlantis. And that is in Norse mythology is what is taught in the fourth grade of the Waldorf school. And then in the fifth grade, we come up to the post-Atlantean age, which we're in now. And we start off in ancient India, and we move to which is the first post-Atlantean age of culture, and then Persia, ancient Egypt, Babylonia, and Hebraic culture. That's the third post-Atlantean culture. And then we go across the Mediterranean to ancient Greece, which is half of the fourth post-Atlantean development. So we really, in fifth grade, really go through a sweep of this time of the post-Atlantean cultural development. And we stop when we go from Greek mythology, and we go into Greek philosophy with Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So that's a big jump in Waldorf education, kind of going from mythological education, mythological history, to going into real history as it happened, grounded on the earth. And that's all in fifth grade. And then in sixth grade is the age of Rome, and come up all the way to Rome, founding of Christianity and the founding of Islam. And sixth grade, we're coming near to current time, the age of exploration, the Renaissance, the Reformation, and into the age of enlightenment. Now we're at into the eighth grade. We come all the way to modern times with the revolutions. So the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Chinese Revolution. We come all the way up to 2022. So in a way, you could say that based on this understanding of this kind of secret law of that second 7 years of development, and this may relate to what Steiner said, that the future of humanity really depends on adults stepping forward who can be true authorities for children at that age. One could say that human development right now, as we stand in 2022, is at the level of eighth grade in the cosmic sense, that we are only eighth graders. Humanity is, and that really explains a lot, doesn't it? We're eighth graders. We haven't even started high school as humanity in our cosmic evolution. So the sign that this is finished, that this stage of development, and that the etheric body is ready to be born, is that puberty happens. And that's how we know. Now, puberty is happening much earlier and earlier because human beings, children, are being exposed to much more astrality, which is really the work of the third 7 years, much more astrality than ever before. So we have seen over the last 40, 50 years that puberty is beginning, especially in young girls, much earlier than in the past. But puberty is the physical sign that this time is done. And we could ask, really, what did we try to accomplish? I could, Waldorf education, it's a 2-year training. I'm just giving you Waldorf education in a nutshell. But the science as well, Steiner says that the incarnating individuality is now in sixth grade, has come all the way into the skeleton of the body. And so we can begin teaching actual science. And so the science curriculum actually begins in fourth grade with a very kind of artistic presentation of zoology. So the animal realm. In fifth grade, it moves down into the plant realm, botany. And then in sixth grade, because the individuality has come all the way down into the physical structure, it can start understanding the connections of science, of physical science. And the science curriculum really takes off in the sixth grade. You have physics, so optics, acoustics, mechanics. You have geology, so really talking about the physical world, and then going out to the starry world, astronomy. In sixth grade, you continue physics with mechanics. Actually, in sixth grade, you had magnetism. In sixth grade, in seventh grade, you add electricity. You add inorganic chemistry and anatomy, and then in eighth grade, you add physiology and organic chemistry, and you review the other parts of the science that you've had before. So that's the science curriculum. So it's really an amazing curriculum, Waldorf education. And so how do we know we've done a good job in the second 7 years? There are four things. We really, and this is kind of motif in Waldorf education, we build capacities. Capacities are much more important than skills, because skills, we could teach a child how to work a computer, and at some point in middle school, they need to know that, but not before middle school, because already when they get into college, it's going to change. Those skills are going to change. So we really want to build these capacities for understanding what a computer is. Children at Waldorf school understand the basis for computers, and then they can really understand what a computer. Then they can develop the skills they need to use a computer. So we build capacities, and we also build skills. The children develop amazing skills. They know how to. They develop public speaking skills. They use public speaking skills every day of their lives, every day of their academic careers. They know how to speak and listen. They know how to read discriminatingly. They know how to write. If we've done our job well, they love the mysteries of numeracy. They have these capacities. They have these skills. They have a positive mindset, a growth mindset. So they have positive self-esteem. Their spark hasn't died. And so often as educators, and I know we have several educators who are listening to this, so often around the age of 5th grade, if we teach them the same thing over and over again from 1st grade, they say, I've learned all this before in traditional education. What's the point? And they turn off, and then popular culture becomes their teacher in middle school instead of this incredible curriculum in the Waldorf middle school. So they have this growth mindset, and finally they have this love of learning. They are lifelong learners. And so these four things, we know we've done our job if when we shake those students' hands as their class teacher, and the class teacher goes through gets the children on the first day of 1st grade and moves with the children year after year, ideally until the 8th grade. That's this learning through authority. And Steiner says if you have a right relationship to authority in the second 7 years, you'll never have an issue with authority the rest of your life. You'll know when to go with authority, and you'll know when to challenge authority as adults. And so when the teacher shakes those students' hands on the last day of 8th grade, that is a real celebration that they've gone together as a group those 8 years. Really, you start with the last year of the first 7 years, and the children should turn 7 sometime in the 1st grade, and then they go through this 8 years together. Now they move on to the birth of the astral body, and the astral body and really astral means starry. So you could say the etheric body is the solar body, the physical body is really the earthly body. And so now we have the birth of the starry body, the astral body. And that is really, now we have teachers who are experts in their field. The key to the third 7 years is freedom. Imitation in the first 7 years, authority in the second 7 years, freedom in the third 7 years. Really, the astral body has to be free. It's like, we share that body. We have that body in common with the animal realm, just as we have the etheric body in common with the plant realm and the physical body in common with the mineral realm. So we really need to be free in that third 7 years. And we have experts in their field who deliver that curriculum, and they are really presenting the legacy of humanity to the children, so that the children can they take everything that was presented as a foundational education in the second 7 years, and they expand it. And so you'll do surveying in a Waldorf high school. In the Waldorf high schools in Germany, they have auto mechanic shops. They have just incredible structures for the children to the young adults, they're really not children anymore, to be exposed to as much as possible of the legacy of humanity, so that they'll have this experience, the individuality, which is now really coming all the way down into the toes, you could say, that they will have a moment where they say, that's why I've come to the earth this time. Maybe it is to be an auto mechanic. Maybe it's to be a doctor. Maybe it's to be a composer. Maybe it's to be a conductor. Who knows? But the child will have an experience, if we do our work right, where they have this kind of aha moment in high school and college. And that's why you can say, in a way, taking a gap year is really a wonderful thing, because then between 18 and 19, you take a gap year, and then you go to college from between 19 and 20 and 20 and 21. And then usually when you finish your sophomore year in college, you have to decide on what that, kind of what you're going to do, whether you're going to go into graduate school and be a doctor or whatever. Then you really have had, this exposure through your sophomore year of college, where you say, okay, now I know what I'm doing in my life in this incarnation. And then Steiner says that at around the age of 21, the individuality has come all the way, and we call it in Anthroposophy the three sheaths. The three bodies are now, in a sense, at the disposal for the individuality to really do its work on the earth. Now, the Waldorf education continues through the whole of life. Again, that's a misnomer. Human development based on the spiritual scientific understanding of human development continues through the whole of life, up to the day of our death, and up to the moment of our death. So really the next 21 years, from 21 to 42, are really the most important in the educational experience. The first 21 years are just a recapitulation of the three earlier incarnations of the earth, which we talked about in last year's talk. So old Saturn, physical body, first 7 years. Old moon, old sun, etheric body, second 7 years. Old moon, astral body, third 7 years. And in the next 21 years, we are really working on the three soul members, which are the what we're here on this incarnation of the earth. That's what we're here to develop. And I can't go for time purposes, I can't go too deeply into them, but the period from 21 to 28, we're working on, and you can look at you can think of your own life in this regard. We're working on what Steiner called the Empfindungsseele, which is translated as sentient soul, but it is really the feeling soul, in the sense in English we say, I have a feeling about that. I have a sense of that. It's really the heart. It's really the heart as an instrument. And it's the individuality working on the astral body and ensouling it. And it becomes this new soul member, which is the Empfindungsseele, or the feeling soul. That's 21 to 28. 28 to 35 is really the individuality working on the etheric body and ensouling that. And Steiner called that the Erstandesseele, and that is translated intellectual soul, but I really think that's a mistranslation. Intellectual, the English word intellect has all sorts of connotations. It's really the reasoning soul, the reason soul. And one of the two functions of the etheric body are the forces of growth, the solar body, the chi, and when growth steps back, the forces of understanding and intellect and intelligence, really. So the etheric body has these two functions. And so that's really this ensouled etheric body as reason. And then from 35 to 42, the consciousness soul, the Bewusstseinsseele, which is the individuality working on the physical body and ensouling that. And we become conscious of everything in our environment. And then it continues on until the moment of our death. How long do I have to go, Pasha? Till about a quarter after? Oh, good. So I want to go into this life between death and a new birth. So we come to the whatever time it is. We have no idea. It could be a few days after our birth. It could be 100 years after our birth. We have no clue what that's going to be. But at some moment we have this experience where we cross over, and the individuality is done with its work in that incarnation. And actually, 3 days before that moment of the etheric body and the connection between the etheric body and the physical body, which really constitutes life in incarnation, is released. And that is what we call death. 3 days before that release, something really amazing happens. The part of us which Steiner calls the doppelganger, which is translated in English as the double. We know it as the shadow. In the Course in Miracles, it's called the ego. It's really everything that is not redeemed, everything that is ugly about ourselves and about human existence. That part of the human being leaves the individuality 3 days before death. It senses death. It can't deal with death. Course in Miracles says the ego begins with birth and ends at death. And so in anthroposophical medicine, the anthroposophical doctor knows about this. And often a person, if a person is experiencing an illness, they will have suddenly a remission. And they'll think, I've got, my life is looking up. And the anthroposophical doctor will say, well, do you have all your papers in order? Because they'll know that could mean that your life in this incarnation is about to end in 3 days. And so that moment comes when the etheric body is released from the physical body. The physical body goes back to the earth. The etheric body goes up to the sun, where its source is. And it takes, Steiner says, 3 days for the etheric body to expand all the way up to the sun. In anthroposophical communities, where these things are known and practiced, we have what's called a death watch, where there'll always be someone for 24 hours a day for those 3 days who is sitting with the corpse and is just being with the individuality. The individuality is there, of course, and just helping that process of releasing, and is either just being there in silence or reading something from the scriptures, something that was really meaningful to that person in their incarnation. And after those 3 days are done, then the astral body begins expanding and dissolving. And this is really among the most fascinating part of this journey, because Steiner says this takes about a third of the time that we were alive. So about the time that the amount of time that we slept in our life is about the amount of time that it takes the astral body to release itself and expand to the orbit of the moon. So it goes all the way. The orbit of the moon spiritually is the edge of what's known as Kamaloka. So we move from the third day after death, we move into this realm called Kamaloka. I wish I had more time to go into all the amazing details. But we have 2 tasks that we need to do during this time. So if a person, let's say, was born in 1960 and crossed the threshold in 2020, they were 60 years old, then you could say that they reached the edge of the moon and they left their astral body behind in 2040. It would take them about 20 years. And you can follow a person kind of in their experience going back. At the 3 days after their death, they start going backwards to the moment of their birth. So they live their life again. And there are 2 purposes for this time. We have to live our life again, a third of it. It takes a third of the time, from the perspective of being outside of our own bodies. So we experience our life from inside our bodies our whole lives. And really, that's a very limited perspective. So now we need to have that experience of seeing everything that we experience from the other person's perspective. And so we do that all the way from the last day of our life to when we reach the edge of Kamaloka. It's the day of our birth. And then we go on. And the other purpose of Kamaloka is to burn off any addictions or habits that we have. And we do, that can be a very painful thing. If we were addicted to cigarettes, we don't have a body anymore to smoke. So we have to work through those addictions. So really that experience of Kamaloka is greatly enhanced if we can do that burning off in this time known as purgatory. Kamaloka is known as purgatory in the Catholic tradition. If we can do that work and upgrade all of our desires into preferences while we're still alive. When we leave the astral body behind, then we move through, that's the moon sphere. We move into the Venus, actually into the Mercury sphere. We move through the spheres and we come eventually to the starry world. And we spend about 1,000 years, Steiner says, in the starry world, planning our next incarnation. And then at a certain moment, we know that we need to continue our process of development, and we're ready to begin the journey again, this cycle back through into the next life. And we need to do that really twice in each cultural age lasting about 2,160 years, as once as a female and once as a male. So we have this experience of ancient Egypt, female, male, and now as the fifth post-Atlantean epoch as a male and a female. Although I think the incarnations are really speeding up now. I don't think that that's necessarily the case any longer. So those are some of the fruits of Steiner's research. We have biodynamic agriculture, we have anthroposophical medicine, the threefold social order, the arts, Steiner's research into the mystery of Golgotha, the mystery of Jesus and the Christ. All of these things are additional fruits of his research, but this is that cycle that we find ourselves in right now, the cycle of a birth, death, and a rebirth that really forms the heart of Waldorf education. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very informative. I realized while you were speaking that when you had given your first two talks, I was a little bit overwhelmed. And again, I was overwhelmed with keeping up with the terminology and the information. But
I mean, and you can imagine when we go out from this world to from the surface of things out to the gate of heaven, it becomes an incredibly complex and vast cosmology.
Yeah. And very exciting.
It's very exciting
to look forward to. Thank you so much. I'm sure people will have questions, but we need to go ahead and with our service. We are going to have our offertory. If we can have some music. I'm going to pass the bowl, which is something we weren't doing during the pandemic also.
Mama, I'm coming home to that place where I belong. Pachamama, carry me home to that place where I belong. Pachamama, carry me home to that place where I belong. Pachamama, carry me home to that place where I belong. Pachamama, take me home to that place where I belong. Wanna be free, so free, like a flower and a bee, like a bird in the tree, like a dolphin in the sea. I wanna fly high, so high, like an eagle in the sky. When my work is done, gonna spread my wings and fly. When my work is done, I'm gonna spread my wings and fly. I wanna be free, so free, like a flower and a bee, like a bird in the sea, like a dolphin in the sea. I wanna fly high, so high, like an eagle in the sky. When my work is done, gonna spread my wings and fly. When my work is done, I'm gonna spread my wings and fly. When my work is done, I'm gonna spread my wings and fly. When my work is done, I'm gonna spread my wings and fly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we're having time for announcements, and if Phil has anything, are you going to be presenting anything that you would like to announce or want to give us
Well,
information?
say we're going to lunch.
Yes.
And if anyone has questions about any of the three talks or anything about Steiner, it'd be a great time to go into more details.
Oh.
Not that you need more details.
Well, to understand a little bit of that, I think
Yeah.
we need a few more details. I can go ahead and ask if how many would like to go. We're going to go to Keoho to the Royal Thai restaurant. If you could show me your hand, so we'll let them know that we are coming. Okay, thank you. And we'll meet 5. County Phil. Right. That they should be able to accommodate us. In the future, we are going to be having more services every Sunday at 10 o'clock. Next Sunday, on the 9th of October, is Inspiring Lives, Mahatma Gandhi and Fred Rogers, which is, I'm not sure who's presenting that. And on the 16th is Dr. Susan Gregg, and she will be announcing her topic later. This afternoon at between 2 and 4, we're having a celebration of life for Carol Hannum. Thank you. Anyone that would like to attend and bring a tea party treat and share memories. Do you have any more information about that, Pomai?
Well, celebration of life. Carol was Marie Claire's one of her best buddies, and they were quite the pair when they got together. And I was honored to know Carol for a long time while she was here in Hawaii. And she was an amazing being of delight, I say, because she was just, I don't have words. She was an architect. She was a painter. She was a jewelry maker. She was a teacher. She was an inventor. She invented a healing method that works phenomenally well. She wrote a book about it. I could go on and on. She's just amazing. Amazing beaming of delight. And so everybody come celebrate. There's going to be a lot of people here. We were able to claim her mailing list and let everybody know. So come have a joyous time.
Thank you. I'm sorry that we won't, the people that are on the video won't be able to hear all of that, but it was amazing what we're hearing, that the abilities she had in being able to have the memories of her life. So that's going to be from 2 o'clock right here until 4. On Mondays from 5 to 6, we have Tai Chi, which will begin again on the 24th. And Wednesdays through October 26th, we have a dream group meeting from 4 to 6, and it's facilitated by Lindsay Roth. Suggested donations $5 per meeting. At the last Sunday of the month, we have produce giveaway, which Pasha was talking about. There probably will be some more avocados for a few more weeks from her tree. And the first Sunday of the month, we have the healing bowls, which starts at 8:30 now until 9. Where Aaron S. is doing the crystal bowls, and also we have others who are joining in the presentation. We do need Sunday service volunteers, greeters, setup, cleanup, workshop facilitators. If you are a facilitator, you do get that free of charge. There is free admission. And we also need childcare. If you would like to volunteer for anything, just click the reply to our newsletter. If you would like to be on our mailing list, we do have a sign-up sheet. And does anyone else have any new thought announcements? Pasha?
You wanna-
Okay. So while we were meeting, Susan Gregg sent her title. Hold on a sec. Okay, so this is on the 16th, and her title is How to Let Go of the Past and Have a Magical Life. Okay, so about next week, occasionally it happens that there's a Sunday that just doesn't quite work for any of our guest speakers, and I take that as a indication that, you know, we've got wisdom in-house and we should tap it. So we have done this theme of a service before, but quite a long time ago, where we focus on an inspiring life, and one person will give a little bit of a biography and maybe a reason why they are particularly inspired by this person, and then let the person speak for himself or herself by reading some of that person's words. So I'm representing Gandhi next week, and Erin Peoples is hoping to represent Fred Rogers. And she grew up in Pittsburgh, so where he lived, so he really was kind of a neighbor. She lived in his neighborhood. And however, Erin is under the weather, and I would like to have a backup. So if anyone has kind of a personal hero, and you know, and that we can have access to that person's writings, it would be wonderful if you could speak to me after service so that we're prepared just in case Erin needs a little more time for her recovery. Another ramification of Erin being out of commission this morning is that she wasn't able to clean the lanai as she would have, as particularly with Carol's service coming up. So Pomekai is facilitating if anyone wants to volunteer to her to assist with cleaning in the in-between the end of this service and the beginning of the memorial. That would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, and is there anything else? Terry, are we complete with events and things? Here, let me give you this. You want to come up in front or just see?
I didn't write it down. Yeah, Mira Ohala is going to be doing her cancer survivor workshop, and it's going to be, let's see, October 15th at 4 on Tuesday. So, and Stephen will be back, and he'll be the facilitator. So it should be good.
That's great. And that will be by donation. And I think like limited to people either who have had the experience of cancer in their own lives or spouses or very close people that have shared that experience. So Mira was previously known as Rita. Some of you may remember her that way. I just want to make one follow-up acknowledgement to last week. I once again thank everyone who contributed to the birthday, any part of the birthday celebration last Sunday. But there was one important person I forgot to acknowledge. So I think we all know that Jill Kuykendall donated the grand prize, which was a fine print of one of Hank Wesselman's visionary art pieces. But the other gifts, there were 4 additional gifts, and I forgot to say where they came from. So those were donated by Ramona Owen. So thank you, Ramona. Okay. And I'm giving this back to Margie.
You can finish the service. We're ready.
Oh, we're ready for the closing
Yes.
closing song?
Yes.
Okay. So Sakshi,
Right on time.
how do you feel about leading that? Can you do it or? All right, awesome. So this is finished. You can turn it off.
And we can all stand and hold hands this time. We haven't been able to do that.
E Hawaii e ku one hana e ku home ku ali ai ne oli no ana pela inari o e Hawaii aloha Eha oli na oki vane oli Maina ahe makani hapamane Mai ke aloha no Hawaii ahe makani pamane Make aloha no Hawaii Make aloha no Hawaii. One more time. Make aloha no Hawaii.